In the past 20 years, Ethiopia's GDP has grown tenfold. The Financial Times once published an article titled Ethiopia's Manufacturing Miracle, stating that Ethiopia has successfully attracted foreign manufacturers and become a beacon of hope in sub-Saharan Africa. This demonstrates that the region, which has been the poorest on earth, can follow common development models that have brought prosperity to other parts of the world. The main reason behind Ethiopia's success lies in the assistance it received from China. A professor from Addis Ababa University in Ethiopia stated, "China is currently investing globally, even in the United States and Europe. China is indeed powerful. Ethiopia has its own problems, but so do other countries. This does not hinder our respect for China as a nation and our respect for our identity as Ethiopians." How did Ethiopia become an African miracle? It is worth mentioning that Ethiopia's GDP has experienced an average annual growth rate of 9% over the past 20 years. For instance, in 1999, its GDP was only $7.7 billion, but by 2019, it had reached $96.1 billion, surpassing a tenfold increase and becoming an economic miracle in Africa. Who is Ethiopia? Ethiopia is known as the roof of Africa. The Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia is a country located in northeastern Africa. Ethiopia was once one of the least developed countries in the world, and its economic ranking in Africa was not particularly high. Its main industries relied on agriculture, and it was unable to achieve self-sufficiency in food production. Especially after the split with Eritrea in 1998, Ethiopia lost its seaport, further worsening its economic situation. Ethiopia has a land area of 1,104,300 square kilometers and a population of 109 million. Ethiopia was the only fully independent country in Africa before World War II and a semi-modernized nation. It was considered Africa's strongest nation and ranked relatively high globally. Prior to World War II, Ethiopia was known as one of the most prominent maritime transit hubs and trading powers in East Africa and Western Asia. Relying on flourishing trade, Ethiopia had a strong national strength and was one of the largest countries in East Africa. What does Ethiopia possess? Ethiopia has abundant mineral resources. Explored resources in Ethiopia include gold, platinum, nickel, copper, iron, coal, tantalum, silicon, potash, phosphate, marble, limestone, petroleum, and natural gas. Ethiopia's Greenstone Belt is one of the world's best gold mining areas, with over 500 cubic meters of gold reserves identified in 7 regions. Additionally, Ethiopia has significant reserves of platinum, nickel, potash, and soda ash. Industrial minerals include marble, granite, limestone, clay, gypsum, cat's eye, diamonds, and various gemstones. As for mineral energy resources, there are significant opportunities for the development of oil and gas resources in the country's 4 main sedimentary basins, Ogaden, Gambela, Blue Nile, and Southern Rift Valley basins. Ethiopia's highlands are known as the Water Tower of East Africa. Due to its location on the Ethiopian highlands in eastern Africa, the country is home to numerous rivers and lakes. Over 30 major rivers in Ethiopia originate from its central highlands. The Abe, Blue Nile, Tikis, and Barrow rivers belong to the Nile River system, while the Shebel and Juba rivers belong to the Indian Ocean basin. The annual water outflow from Ethiopia exceeds 100 billion cubic meters, with the Blue Nile alone contributing more than half of the total outflow. Therefore, Ethiopia's water resources are abundant, making it the water tower of East Africa. Ethiopia is primarily an agricultural country. The agricultural sector accounts for 40% of the country's GDP, while the industrial sector contributes only 15%. More than 80% of the population are engaged in farming and herding, making Ethiopia heavily reliant on rain-fed agriculture. Particularly, the per capita caloric intake is lower than in India, and despite a decrease in recent years, around 40% of children still suffer from malnutrition. Moreover, the lack of electricity supply is a significant limitation for the development of agriculture and livestock in rural areas, as only 20% of the country's population has access to electricity. Ethiopia's success with the Chinese model. Implementation and development of 4 major industries. In the 1990s, the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front (EPRDF) gained political power and established the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, marking the beginning of a period of significant economic growth. During the 21-year presidency of Meles Zenawi, the EPRDF chairman, Ethiopia implemented the agriculture-led industrialization development strategy and focused on the development of 4 major industries: emerging industries, export-oriented industries, tourism, and aviation. The Ethiopian government also relaxed policies and offered incentives to attract foreign investment in the development of energy and mineral resources. It is important to note that Ethiopia's new national economic development strategy closely follows the Chinese model. Back in 2000, Ethiopia was the 3rd poorest country in the world, with a per capita GDP of only $650, equivalent to 4,327 yuan. More than half of the Ethiopian population lived below the poverty line. Adoption of the Chinese economic development model. From 2000 to 2016, Ethiopia experienced the 3rd fastest economic growth among all countries with a population exceeding 10 million, according to data from the International Monetary Fund. Particularly in 2011, Ethiopia achieved an astonishing poverty reduction rate of 31%. Undoubtedly, Ethiopia's remarkable achievements can be attributed to the adoption of the Chinese model. Ethiopia's rapid economic development has been greatly facilitated by assistance from China. For example, there are approximately 180,000 Chinese people living and working in Ethiopia, making them the largest foreign community in the country. Major Chinese state-owned enterprises such as China Railway, China Telecom, China State Construction Engineering, Huawei, and Gezhuba have invested in Ethiopia's economic development and construction projects. Chinese investment and business visits have gradually increased, particularly in manufacturing and building materials. Ethiopia's government has initiated a large number of national economic construction projects through loans and other means, and Chinese workers can be seen involved in construction scenes throughout Ethiopia. Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, has become a major construction site. China Railway Construction Corporation's subsidiary, China Railway Engineering Corporation, CREC, has been responsible for assisting in the construction of Ethiopia's light rail system. They have built a rapid transportation infrastructure for this vast city, connecting the old town with the east and west, marking a significant milestone in Addis Ababa's modernization and greatly improving the living standards of Ethiopians. The light rail system in Ethiopia's capital is already in operation. It was constructed by CREC, and the construction cost amounted to $475 million. It is worth mentioning that the construction of the main light rail line was carried out according to rigorous Chinese standards and completed within 3 years. China has played a crucial role in the entire process, from the start of the light rail construction to its operation. Ethiopia has established a convenient transportation network, with 70% of it manufactured in China. Especially along the light rail line, new commercial centers and residential areas have emerged. Thousands of Ethiopians have eagerly queued to purchase houses using mortgage loans, and there is also a significant number of people in Ethiopia looking to buy cars, which is not common in underdeveloped Africa. According to statistics from 2014, around 90% of Ethiopia's highways, communication networks, the first wind farm in Africa, the first light rail in East Africa, and the first electrified railway in East Africa were built with substantial support from Chinese funding and construction. Ethiopia's economic takeoff owes much to the Chinese model. The Chinese model aims for mutual benefit. The process of Ethiopia adopting the Chinese model has indeed been a mutually beneficial one. For example, in helping Ethiopia's economic development, it has also deepened cooperation between the two countries. One notable project is the Ethiopia-Djibouti Railway, which is the first electrified railway in East Africa, connecting the capitals of Ethiopia and Djibouti. With a total investment of approximately $4 billion, the railway was built entirely according to Chinese standards and using Chinese manufacturing. This railway has reduced the transportation time for freight between the two capitals from the previous 7 days, by road to just 10 hours. Its significance lies not only in being a major engineering project that generates profits for Chinese engineers and construction teams, but also in expanding the technical and industrial exports of numerous domestic machinery and equipment manufacturers. It has become an important symbol of China's industrial expansion overseas because the entire process of financing, planning, design, construction, equipment procurement, installation, and commissioning of Ethiopian projects strictly adheres to relevant Chinese industry standards. This undoubtedly enhances the influence of Chinese railway technology and industrial technology globally. Another example is the economic cooperation between Ethiopia and China in the energy sector. The China Gezhuba Group Corporation, CGGC, undertook the construction of the Tikes hydropower station in Ethiopia, particularly the construction of the double curvature arch dam, which is considered the most challenging part of the entire hydropower project and has been referred to as the Three Gorges Project of Africa. The Ethiopia-Djibouti Railway is a vital lifeline for Ethiopia, as it holds great strategic significance from both an economic development and people's well-being perspective. Without this railway, further development of manufacturing processing and export trade in Ethiopia would undoubtedly be more challenging. Therefore, the construction of the railway has propelled the rapid economic rise of this populous African nation. It has especially provided expanding overseas consumer markets for Chinese goods and Chinese manufacturing, becoming a new overseas production base and creating more development opportunities in space. In addition to engineering, technology, and economic exports, China has also exported elements of its culture. For instance, on the Ethiopia-Djibouti Railway, nearly all aspects, including attire, service standards, and passenger etiquette, reflect Chinese elements. As a result, Ethiopia has been referred to as the Little China of Africa. According to World Bank projections, between 2019 and 2021, Ethiopia is expected to be the world's second fastest growing economy, with a growth rate of 8.1%. Ethiopia has consistently led global economic growth and has become an economic star in Africa. It is worth anticipating that by 2025, Ethiopia's strategic goal is to become a middle-income country or create a new economic miracle. That concludes today's video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next episode.